What would you do if your boss treated you like dirt every single day, humiliated you in front of your coworkers, stole credit for your hard work, and even tried to sabotage your future? Most people would quit, but not Daniel. He decided to fight back. And what he did not only exposed his boss's true nature, it humiliated him so badly that the entire company would never forget it. This is the story of the ultimate toxic boss revenge. The story begins in a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago, a company called Brightline Strategies. On the surface, Brightline looked modern, successful, and ambitious, but underneath the shiny glass walls and trendy open-planned office, there was a cancer that ate away at morale. And that cancer had a name: Victor Hayes. Victor was the regional manager, a man in his late 40s with a perfect suit, slicked back hair, and a smile that could charm clients but terrify employees. To outsiders, he was charismatic, but to those who worked under him, he was pure poison. Daniel Miller, a 28-year-old junior account executive, was one of his targets. Daniel wasn't flashy. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was smart, hardworking, and quietly ambitious. And Victor hated that, because in Victor's mind, anyone competent enough to outshine him was a threat. Every morning, Daniel would arrive early, coffee in hand, ready to take on his tasks. But no matter how hard he worked, Victor always found a way to tear him down. Victor, mocking tone in front of staff: "Daniel, is that the best you can do? My teenage son could have written a better campaign pitch than this. Do you even understand the basics of marketing?" Laughter rippled across the office, not because the employees thought it was funny, but because they were too afraid to stay silent. If you didn't laugh at Victor's jokes, you could be next. Daniel swallowed his pride. He needed this job. His student loans were piling up, rent was high, and his medical bills weren't going to pay themselves. He told himself he could handle it, at least for a little while. The breaking point came during a high-stakes pitch to a major client, Skyline Airlines. Daniel had worked nights and weekends perfecting the presentation. It was his chance to shine. But when the meeting began, Victor stood at the head of the table, cleared his throat, and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I'd like to share a groundbreaking campaign idea that I personally developed." He clicked through the slides Daniel had designed, word for word. Not a single mention of Daniel's contribution. By the end, Skyline's executives were nodding in approval. They loved it. They applauded Victor. And Daniel sat there, fists clenched under the table, watching his boss steal everything he'd worked for. After the meeting, Victor leaned in close, his voice a whisper only Daniel could hear. "Victor, learn your place, Miller. People like you don't get ahead in this business. People like me do." That was the moment Daniel decided enough was enough. If Victor wanted a war, Daniel was ready to give him one. But Victor had no idea just how clever Daniel could be. Daniel didn't strike back immediately. That wasn't his style. Instead, he began to watch, to listen, to learn. Narrator calm but suspenseful. Every toxic boss has weaknesses, and Daniel knew that if he was patient enough, Victor would eventually expose his. So Daniel became invisible, just another tired employee in the office, while secretly collecting every piece of information he could. He noticed how Victor often arrived late, but demanded others stay past midnight. He noticed how Victor manipulated numbers and reports, exaggerating profits to impress upper management. He noticed that Victor frequently disappeared during the day for client lunches, but Daniel suspected they were more personal than professional. Daniel started a private folder on his laptop, labeled it simply Project Phoenix. In that folder, he documented everything. Every insult, every stolen idea, every falsified report. Screenshots, emails, reportings. He even saved the security camera timestamps that showed Victor leaving early while claiming overtime. The more he gathered, the clearer his path became. But revenge is rarely a one-man job, and Daniel realized he wasn't the only victim. There was Sarah, a brilliant graphic designer who Victor constantly belittled. There was Jamal, a numbers guy who Victor forced to adjust financial reports to hide budget overspending. And there was Emily, the intern who'd nearly quit after Victor publicly embarrassed her for a typo in an email. One late evening, as the office lights dimmed and only a few workers remained, Daniel quietly approached Sarah. Daniel. Low voice. Hey, Sarah. Can I ask you something? Do you ever feel like Victor takes advantage of your work? Sarah looked at him, eyes tired but sharp. Are you kidding me? He's been stealing my designs for months, but if I speak up, I'm done here. Why? Are you planning something? Daniel hesitated, then smiled faintly. Let's just say I'm working on something bigger than a complaint to HR. Over the next week, Daniel spoke to Jamal and Emily as well. At first, they were hesitant. Who wouldn't be? Going against Victor felt like career suicide. But when Daniel showed them the evidence he'd been gathering, their fear turned into anger. And anger turned into loyalty. The four of them formed a quiet alliance, a secret rebellion in the middle of Bright Line's open plan office. And together, they began plotting the fall of Victor Hayes. Revenge isn't about striking fast. It's about striking smart. And Daniel wanted Victor's downfall to be so complete, so humiliating, that he would never recover. The team started small. Sarah designed mock-ups of fake presentations with subtle mistakes, knowing Victor would grab them and present them as his own. When he did, clients noticed the errors, and his credibility took a small but noticeable hit. Jamal began slipping real numbers into reports, numbers that contradicted Victor's inflated claims. It was only a matter of time before higher management started asking questions. Emily, the intern Victor thought was invisible, began recording their meetings. Every insult, every inappropriate comment, every threat. Little by little, the mask Victor wore began to crack. But Daniel knew this wasn't enough. The humiliation had to be public. It had to be unforgettable. The opportunity arrived when Brightline announced its annual Regional Strategy Summit, a massive event where all branch managers, executives, and key clients would gather to hear the year's plans. Victor, of course, was scheduled to give the keynote presentation. For Victor, this was his stage, his chance to shine in front of the CEO. For Daniel and his team, it was the perfect stage for exposure. Narrator, building suspense. They didn't want to just report Victor. They wanted to show the entire company live in real time who he really was. The liar, the thief, the bully. Daniel spent nights perfecting the plan. He didn't hack anything, break no laws. All he used was Victor's own arrogance against him. The summit presentation would be the battlefield, and Daniel was ready to light the match. The morning of the Regional Strategy Summit arrived. The ballroom of the downtown Chicago hotel buzzed with energy. Hundreds of employees, executives, and clients mingling beneath golden chandeliers. This wasn't just another meeting. This was the event of the year. Victor Hayes walked in like a king entering his palace. Armani suit, diamond cufflinks, that smug grin plastered on his face. People shook his hand, congratulated him in advance, told him they couldn't wait for his presentation. And Victor, drunk on the attention, didn't notice Daniel watching from across the room, calm and focused. Sarah, Jamal, and Emily sat near the back, pretending to be ordinary attendees, but each of them knew what was about to happen. Daniel had prepared everything: the slides, the timing, the evidence. All Victor had to do was be himself. When it was time, Victor strutted onto the stage, adjusted his tie, and clicked the remote. The giant screen lit up behind him with the bright line logo. He cleared his throat and began his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, today I present to you the most innovative strategy Brightline has ever seen, a vision that I personally developed. Slide after slide appeared, all of them polished, impressive, and, of course, stolen directly from Daniel's work.